SpaceX is picking up the pieces at Massey's. Ship 36's failure and explosion mean SpaceX will likely be delayed months before Flight 10. Or will they? We analyzed all the damage, and it's not that bad. The rest of Block 2 is waiting for a resolution, and China's own version of Starship is getting better and better. The race is intensifying. My name is Felix, welcome to What About It, let's dive right in. Starship updates. It looks like the Massey's test site area has been reopened to the crew and cleanup operations are underway. Let's find out if static fires are paused for the time being and how SpaceX will advance Starship testing while repairs are made to the site. Also, haven't we seen something like this before? Something very similar actually happened at a Falcon 9 rocket on the pad way back in 2016 for the Amos 6 flight. Similarly to Ship 36's detonation, the Falcon 9 anomaly also occurred during a static fire. This was a launch that was supposed to carry a satellite for Facebook into orbit, but a buildup of oxygen in 3 COPVs caused the rocket to explode on the pad. A COPV, or composite overwrapped pressure vessel, is a lightweight, high-strength tank used to store pressurized gases like helium or nitrogen. In rockets, they are typically used to pressurize fuel tanks or support venting, engine spin-up, and purge systems. With Amos 6, interestingly, SpaceX had already preloaded all of the rideshare satellites onto the rocket to save a day in the pre-launch cadence. Oops. The loss was also not covered by the launch insurance policy since it was a static fire and not a launch. That incident caused bad blood between Musk and Zuckerberg for years after the latter complained about it on Facebook. Falcon 9 and Starship both use COPVs to store pressurized gases, but their design and use cases differ. Falcon 9 COPVs store helium inside the LOX tank, and Starships store mainly liquid nitrogen and distribute it throughout the vehicle, including the nose cone. Falcon 9 COPVs were redesigned after the 2016 Amos 6 failure. The updated version featured improved liners, better insulation, and revised helium loading procedures to prevent issues like buckling and oxygen pooling. At the time, Elon Musk had described these as the most advanced pressure vessels ever developed, personally reviewing the design alongside SpaceX's top engineers. The system was tested extensively with validation from NASA and had a burst pressure more than twice what it experiences during actual use. The burst pressure rating expresses the maximum pressure a vessel is guaranteed to withstand before it fails. The redesigned COPVs have been flying reliably on Falcon 9 Block 5 since late 2018. And since that redesign, there have been no reported failures. Not during launch, not during static fire, and not across any mission type. More than 5 years later, and after hundreds of launches, Falcon 9 has not experienced a single COPV incident since Amos 6. Starship might be at a similar moment too. Granted, Falcon 9 had already been flying missions for a few years at that point, while Starship is still very much in the experimental phase. Its COPVs, by contrast, are still evolving, and they'll likely evolve even more now that they've failed. In aerial images taken by our own Jordan Guidry, the damage is obvious and widespread. The static fire stand is scorched but still standing, which is a small victory. Much of the surrounding hardware did not fare as well. To the north and east of the test stand, the damage is far more severe. A large tent structure near the edge of the blast zone was obliterated entirely, and this was several hundred feet away. That gives you a sense of how powerful the explosion really was. The fireball and the resulting smoke plume were so intense that they appeared on local weather radar. The most damaged sections of Massey's appear to be near the water deluge system and the methane ground support equipment. The booster test stand to the west and the newer Block 3 test stand nearby also appear to have been hit with some heat and debris. Scorch marks are visible across the pad, but early assessments suggest the damage there was superficial. Liquid oxygen tanks on site seem to have avoided direct impact, and Booster 18.1, which was stationed nearby in the Can Crusher 2.0, appears to have escaped without significant harm. Turning your ideas into something real, that is the magic moment. For us, it started with a simple goal: share our love for space with our enthusiasts. But how do you turn a dream into reality? That's where Shopify came in. Shopify isn't just a store builder, it's a powerhouse toolkit for creators. And their Magic Media Editor, a total game changer. I uploaded a simple product image and boom, it suggested backgrounds, polished up the lighting, and even generated new versions. It's like having a design assistant built right in. It's made running our Y-print store feel effortless and yeah, kind of addicting. Especially paired with the live view, seeing people exploring the store in real time. It's more than building a store, it's building momentum. So if you've been sitting on an idea, big or small, just start. Shopify knows what we need. Head to shopify.com/whataboutit to start your free trial today. Let Shopify help you launch your vision like they did for us. I mean, it's perfect. Start your trial right now by going to shopify.com/whataboutit. SpaceX will now have to investigate every system at Massey's before any testing can resume, but there are some silver linings. The concrete foundations across the test site look intact. No visible chunks of concrete were blown apart. That means the underground piping network likely survived the blast or only suffered minor dents. The nose cone testing rig also seems to have held up structurally, even though it took a little heat. So what does this mean for Starship progress? The loss of Ship 36 is a significant learning experience, but the damage to Massey's is the more serious issue. This was the vehicle intended for Flight 10, which had been tentatively targeted for late June. That flight is now delayed, likely a minimum of 6 to 8 weeks, while Massey's is repaired, and it remains to be seen whether Ship 37 will be moved up as the new candidate. That being said, Ship 38 is also nearly ready in Mega Bay 2. As a result of the explosion and damage, these ships have nowhere to test their engines or do cryoproof testing. So they'll have to wait. SpaceX knows this and will surely expedite, albeit carefully, the repair and return to online status for the test facility. During the suborbital campaign, Starship prototypes would complete cryotesting and also static fires at the suborbital pad. It's a fair question to ask if they can do this at Pad 1. But are the quick disconnect infrastructure pieces even compatible? No. They are not. Currently, and without significant modifications, Pad 1 can't perform ship static fires. And after seeing Massey's being damaged by a never-before-seen anomaly, does SpaceX want to put the entirety of Stage 0 at risk for similar damage? SpaceX calls it Stage 0 because it holds parts usually found inside the rocket. Unlike traditional launch sites with scattered support systems, Stage 0 combines all ground infrastructure into a single, reusable launch mount and tower built by SpaceX. That is a setback that would take many months, if not a whole year, to recover from. Massey's isn't just a random test site. It's currently the only location SpaceX uses to cryoproof and static fire Starship upper stages. So with it temporarily offline, the entire upper stage production pipeline stalls. That includes Ship 37 and 38, which are nearly ready but now have nowhere to finish their campaigns. Testing will likely have to wait until Massey's is adequately prepared, unless SpaceX surprises us with a unique temporary solution to move forward with testing. If we see a huge surge of workers go over to Massey's, we'll know more. Here is something you can do to help ensure that we can keep reporting these things. Hit the subscribe button to stay informed, like this video if it brought you value, and become a Y supporter for extra content. Secure your access to up to 7 picture galleries per week, satellite, helicopter and ground photos and 3D animations, chat with me and gain more insights on the topic you love. The entire team is waiting for you, you rock! In the bigger picture, the Ship 36 incident highlights just how complex these vehicles are and how aggressive SpaceX's testing pace has become. SpaceX certainly isn't shutting down the Starship program after this incident or even slowing down. Back at the production site, it's full steam ahead just like usual. About 11 days ago, through photos from RGV aerial photography, we had seen as many as 4 sections of large work platforms outside of Mega Bay 2. Now they are completely gone. These likely went into either or both of the Mega Bays as they began to prepare new workstations for the new Block 3 ship and booster prototype construction. The 2 Mega Bays are used for stacking and assembling the booster and ship prototypes for Starships. Each stage has its own dedicated Mega Bay. Also, the Gigabay clearing has had more work done as crews have started laying down tarp and pouring pea gravel over it in the first steps of foundation work. The tarp is used to distribute moisture, and the pea gravel helps provide a level base for the eventual foundation pour. After the pea gravel is finished being poured, we'll likely see rebar and utility conduit laid across the gravel base, followed by formwork to section off the area for concrete pours. SpaceX typically pours slabs in phases, and this one will be extra thick and sturdy to support heavy hardware similar to both megabays. Once the slab cures, steel base plates will be installed to anchor the vertical columns that form the skeleton of the new structure. And then, and only then, will we start to see the walls go up. Behind Star Factory, crews have made more progress on the building next to the prior tile manufacturing facility. A quick glimpse around it doesn't give many clues as to what will go inside. Progress with this structure has moved quickly. At this pace, the exterior could be finished in just a few weeks. With the timeline for launches seemingly delayed at least a few more months, will SpaceX complete Pad 2 in time for Flight 10? A few days ago it seemed certain that Pad 1 would host at least the remaining Block 2 launches. Now, with timelines up in the air and ship prototypes unable to even do cryoproof tests, the question arises, can SpaceX get Pad 2 launch ready before Massey's is back online? The initial answer to that question seems skeptical, simply because Pad 2 hasn't even begun initial launch checkouts yet. It's still far from it. We speculated about SpaceX using it as a catch platform before managing any actual test flights. The orbital launch mount is still months away from completion, having just recently received its last manifold piping. The trench, while much further along than a few weeks ago, still isn't fully finished and hasn't had any tests of the diverter or deluge system. These help disperse heat, sound and debris far better than Pad 1's setup, which doesn't even have a diverter. We know Pad 2's tower and chopsticks both work, but those might be the only pieces of infrastructure actually ready. Even if it was fast-tracked, it's still possibly months away from being ready for launches. Pad 1 might still host at least one more launch, maybe even two, before Pad 2 officially comes online. That does not mean Massey's has plenty of time to be rebuilt. As the saying goes, take your time but hurry up. Do you want to see amazingly cool things like this from the air with your own eyes? Check out redlineheli.com/Felix for a once-in-a-lifetime experience and $25 off flying in a helicopter above Starbase. The Redline helicopter team is waiting for you. They'll show you the same views our photographer gets on his Starbase flights. Give it a try. All this info from Starbase puts the next news in a very different light. Late Friday evening at China's Jichuan launch site, commercial space company Landspace successfully conducted a static fire test of its upcoming Zhushe 3 rocket. All 9 methane-fueled engines on the first stage fired for a full 45 seconds. The test wasn't just a simple ignition, it was complex and showed how quickly they are making progress. This kind of test is similar to what SpaceX performs with Falcon 9 and Starship, and it is critical for verifying engine performance, plumbing, software, and structural loads across the booster. Zhushe 3 is not just inspired by Starship, it is very clearly following the same architectural path. A stainless steel structure, methane and liquid oxygen as propellants, and a fully reusable first stage with multiple engine redundancy. The layout is unmistakably familiar. Landspace isn't hiding the influence either. They are trying to build China's version of a smaller super heavy booster and move fast while doing it. This was the most powerful methane-based engine test yet performed by a private Chinese company, and it clears the way for Zhushe 3's first orbital launch attempt later this year. That flight could carry a prototype cargo spacecraft designed to interact with China's Tiangong space station. Landspace also says they are aiming for high flight rates within just a few years, with a target of 1 launch per week. That's the kind of cadence SpaceX had just 3 years ago with Falcon 9. While SpaceX regroups and rebuilds its test infrastructure, Landspace is moving ahead with the kinds of full-duration ground tests that mark real momentum. The race for reusable heavy lift capability is no longer just between governments or continents. It is now playing out between companies that look more alike than ever. This race is closer together than many realize. Firefly Aerospace has just announced a new lunar service called Ocula. It is a commercial imaging system that will orbit the moon and start delivering data in 2026. So what exactly happened and what does this mean? Ocula will fly aboard Firefly's Elytra spacecraft, which is already scheduled to head to the moon as part of the company's second Blue Ghost lander mission for NASA. Once the lander is deployed, the Elytra vehicle will stay in orbit for at least 5 years, acting as a long-term lunar satellite. How does it work? The Elytra spacecraft will carry a telescope system developed by the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. It captures both ultraviolet and visible light images from just 50 kilometers above the surface. The resolution will be about 20 centimeters per pixel, which is roughly twice as sharp as what NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter provides today. That means Ocula can spot small boulders, fine surface texture, and even potential hazards that other orbiters might miss. But this is going to be much more than just high-resolution photography. Ocula will scan the moon for specific materials like ilmenite, which holds oxygen and helium-3, both crucial for long-term lunar exploration. It will also help identify landing zones and monitor the growing number of spacecraft in lunar orbit. This kind of persistent orbital awareness is becoming more important as more missions begin crowding into the same lunar space. And why does this matter? This is the first commercial imaging satellite designed specifically for lunar orbit. It gives Firefly a brand new product to offer to commercial and government customers, not just landers and tugs, but now persistent high-resolution data from orbit. Firefly is opening up lunar economy. It also helps to position them early in a future market that may involve everything from mineral prospecting to traffic control around the moon. Logos Space is officially out of stealth and just secured $50 million in new funding to push forward its plans for a massive broadband satellite constellation. This new funding will allow Logos to start making key design decisions, select hardware partners, and scale up its engineering team. The company plans to deploy over 4,000 satellites into low Earth orbit, but with a few key differences compared to existing players like Starlink, the one existing player. Logos is targeting orbits between 870 and 925 kilometers. That is significantly higher in altitude than Starlink. Logos is still a very small team for now, with only about 10 full-time employees, but expects to expand to around 50 staff by the end of the year. The team includes veterans from SpaceX, NASA, OneWeb, Airbus, Apollo Fusion, and Google. Their first operational satellites could launch as early as late 2027, though that will depend heavily on regulatory approvals, especially from the FCC. If successful, the system would join a very small club of companies capable of deploying global broadband networks at this scale, though it would still be smaller than Starlink's current constellation, which has already surpassed 7,000 active satellites. There's one caveat with this constellation though. Orbits between 870 and 925 kilometers are far more dangerous than lower orbits like those of Starlink. A satellite that fails at between 350 and 500 kilometers, like Starlink, deorbits relatively quickly. It takes between 1 and 3 years max. At around 900 kilometers, it takes at least 100 and up to 500 years. Yeah. That is because atmospheric density decreases exponentially up there. At 500 kilometers you still have some drag, at 900 there is almost none. We should be very careful about mega constellations in those orbits. In April 2020, SpaceX filed for a change in its Starlink constellation with the FCC. The plan of deploying its first generation of Starlink satellites at an altitude of 1,100 to 1,300 kilometers was dropped in favor of the much lower current layer. There were several reasons, like latency, deployment efficiency, and, last but not least, concerns about space debris. SpaceX actively chose to change its plans. No one forced them. If anyone from Logos is watching this, I sure hope you have an excellent plan for reliable automatic deorbiting in place. The European Space Agency has just taken its first official step toward joining Orbital Reef, the commercial space station being developed by Blue Origin and Sierra Space. ESA signed a framework agreement through Thales Allianz Space, one of its key contractors, to explore using Orbital Reef for both crewed missions and science payloads. The announcement was made during the Paris Air Show and is part of ESA's larger strategy for what happens after the International Space Station is retired. The agreement lays the groundwork for European-built modules, life support systems, and scientific racks to potentially become part of Orbital Reef's architecture. It also opens the door for European astronauts to fly to the station in the future and for upcoming European cargo or crew vehicles to provide resupply and transport. Orbital Reef itself is a modular station designed to support a mix of research, industry, tourism, and long-term habitation. It is being built with NASA's support through the agency's commercial low Earth orbit destinations program, which aims to keep humans in low Earth orbit without building another government-owned space station. Why is this important? Because ESA needs a backup plan. The ISS will not last forever, and Europe does not currently have its own station or a private company willing to build one. By teaming up with Orbital Reef, ESA gains a potential path forward in the post-ISS era, not just as a customer, but as a contributor and infrastructure partner. This also gives Europe a way to maintain strategic access to space. If this partnership results in real hardware constructions, ESA could preserve its ability to send astronauts and science missions to orbit well into the 2030s, even without building a national platform of its own. That's it for today. Before watching the bloopers, remember to smash the like button. Subscribe for more. This is what fuels the algorithm, and this is how you can help us for free. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store. A new Raptor design and our Flight 9 shirt are both up. Link is in the description and in the card you should see now. And if you want to learn more, watch this video next to continue your journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode. Have now where? A level base. SpaceX typically the giant bay. It will also help